So welcome back to the channel. So today I'm just going to talk to you a little bit about just little kind of nice things, little extras that you take when you're pulling a sled, or as I'm going to have to get on board with all the language that everyone else uses, a polk. I call it a sled, but we'll call it a polk today. Anyway, you can bring some extra gear along. And one of the things that I take always winter camping, I can't remember when I haven't, and it's a chair kit. This particular one is made by Thermarest, and this is it assembled. Okay, you sit right here, you lean back, and you have a chair. It's so nice. I take a canoeing as well. I always take a canoe. You sit in a canoe all day long, it kills your back. And I've watched a few channels where people are winter camping and they have nothing. And so they're laying down. And when you're going into a tent, some places here in the Rockies, particularly up in western Montana and some places in Montana, it's dark at 4:30. And you're in the tent from 4:30 till 7 o'clock the next morning when it gets light. That's a long time. These chair kits really make a difference. So you pull your pad out, and there it is. They've got some really lightweight ones out. This was an ultralight at the time I bought it, which was 30 years ago, probably 20, 25 years ago, somewhere in there. This is a cut down ridge rest pad that I use in there, and then of course this is part of my sleep system as well. So you're not really carrying anything extra but that, so a pound, and that's acceptable on a polk. The other thing, a lot of people don't do 2 pads. Even if you're ski packing, you got to have 2 pads or you're not going to sleep warm. This is an ultralight Thermarest, and which, by the way, in that chair kit, this full length ultralight Thermarest, when I used to take it on canoe trips, it really makes those Thermarest chairs comfortable. I mean, really comfortable. But in the winter, this is a 3/4 pad ridge rest, and you combine that with the short little pad from the Thermarest chair kit, and you got all kinds of room. When you're sitting in the tent, hanging out, cooking meals and everything, I always have the ridge rest pad out in front of the wood stove, and I have my legs going out onto that to protect me from the cold. Now, I might point out, I do have 2 floorless tents, a Pyramid and a brand new Lux Gear. I think it's the Megahorn or something like that. They don't have floors. I have a Pyramid that we sewed a floor into. I am not a fan of floorless tents. So when I'm referring to my camp here, my camp has a floor in the tent. So the other thing, because it has a floor, I don't wear my boots in the tent. But I like to be able to go in and out as I please. So I have these booties. And these are ORs. I've had them, once again, as long as I've been winter camping with a wood stove, and that's somewhere in 25 to 30 years I've been doing it. I just have a real heavy wool sock in there, and it goes onto your foot. It has a little thing that cinches like that. And by the way, if you're doing hut trips, these are great in the huts too, because you can get your boots off, you can get the liners drying and everything. When I'm on backcountry ski trips, I have a pair of double ski boots where the wool liner comes right out of the 3-pin leather boot. And I just wear those in here. If you don't have a pair of booties, you don't want to buy a pair of booties, you don't need to. Get yourself some stuff sacks. There's a couple of stuff sacks. Here's my white boot, which is a little more like what a foot size would be. Just put it in there. This stuff sack might be a little small for doing a booty, but you just do your shot cord around your foot, and then just either wrap a cord around your ankle here or have a little Velcro strap. You know, that they've got those available everywhere. And you've got yourself a booty. So if you need to go out and go to the bathroom, you're not having to put your ski boots or whatever back on. And speaking of going to the bathroom, when I'm alone, I use a pee bottle. And then when it is full, I go find a base of a tree and I pour it right next to the tree. So when you're at one of my solo camps, you're not seeing yellow snow all over the place. I put it in one place, and that way if you need to melt snow for water, you don't have to worry about it. And if somebody else, although it's unlikely, came in, you don't have to worry about them digging up your yellow snow to melt for water. One of the things that I always carry that's super, super handy is I always carry a length of nylon cord with a loop tied in it in my pocket. That you'll find a gazillion uses for it. I mean, I when I was on my homestead, I always carried one, and I used it constantly. And it's the same with out in the backwoods. You can wrap it around a big pile of sticks that you're bringing in for firewood or whatever. Very handy. Doesn't weigh anything. I do use a headlamp in winter camp, but this little Ozark lantern, it's so nice. And if you want, some guys like to leave a light on all night long. I don't tend to do that, but you can leave this on all night long. It's LED. It takes 3 AAAs, and I carry my AAAs and this little container like this. Whoops, just dumped my batteries. So that they don't touch one another and maybe arc, start a fire or something like that. I'm pretty careful with batteries. But this little lantern, they had them close out for I think $4, and I bought it, and I mean, I love it. I don't take one in the summertime or the springtime on a canoe trip, but I do take them in the fall, and then in the wintertime. To me, a lantern is a must. Now, that said, I do love a candle lantern too. There's something about a candle lantern. The light is so great. But if weight matters, this is a much lighter alternative. So, like I said, I use tents with floors. So, I like to be able to sweep any snow that might come in into this little thing, throw it out the door. This, when you're getting into your tent, you can get so much of the snow off your clothes so it doesn't melt and wet your clothes further. It's not that big of a deal with a wood stove because you can get everything dried out pretty well. But $1 at the dollar store, these are so handy. Helps you clean up your tent floor real well too if you've got some ashes coming out or anything. Underneath my wood stove, doesn't matter what kind I bring, whether it's a titanium or whether it's my home built, I put this, it's under floor underlayment, and you can see I burned a hole through there with a coal, but and this one actually got ripped this time, so I'll have to get a new piece. But I lay a piece about this big, oversized. I put it under on the floor, and then I put a piece of ridge rest down, and then my stove goes right here. It doesn't get that hot underneath that stove, because heat's going up. But it does help keep the snow around that's underneath your tent floor from melting. it insulates it, and so it doesn't require quite as much maintenance to keep your floor level, especially, that's a big consideration when you're in a camp, say a week or something. For 2 nights, it's usually not that big of a deal. The other thing, once again, remember, my tents have floors. I bring stove boards. If it's a back there trip, I bring 1 stove board, and it's just real lightweight plywood. And you can put a stove board underneath your stove. We call them stove boards because the guy I used to go with a lot still wanted to bring an MSR stove. I'm not exactly sure why, because we got a wood stove, but I don't, on my solo trips, I don't ever bring any kind of a gas stove with me when I go with a wood stove and a tent setup. So I just bring one. They're nice. You can put it, you can set your hot pots on it, so that you're not just leaving them on the stove and putting a bunch of moisture into the air from the water boiling. And but anyway, these are just a few of my little things I do. Everybody's got their own ways of doing things, and that's just a few things that I feel make me a lot more comfortable in a winter camp. Thanks for joining me.